to your conscious community with lifelong friends who are twinning in energy as holistic healers, psychic mediums, and life coaches. Our goal is to normalize spirituality. I'm Amy Dascola,
And I'm Dara Jewett.
and we are the Soul Tribes. And this week, the Soul Tribes are vibing out with meditation guru Katie Fleetwood. And we are just going to bring Katie right in and let you meet her. There she is.
Hi, Katie.
Hi,
Hello.
Katie.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so excited for you guys to all meet one of my really good friends, Katie Fleetwood. I actually met her through my parents and her parents. Our parents are friends and they used to be neighbors. They lived in the same community in Florida. And when Katie and I were both visiting our parents, they introduced us because we had a lot in common. So we both loved to travel. We both were into mindfulness and meditation. And when we met, it was just kismet. I love her energy. I love her soul. She's such a beautiful spirit. She's a certified meditation and mindfulness teacher with a focus on mindfulness in the workplace and children's mindfulness, and a yoga instructor as well. She actually is a former elementary school teacher teaching in the US and Korea. So, of course, I knew that Amy and Katie would definitely hit it off. They have that teacher vibe going. But really, Katie was focused on using mindful meditation with her students. And she also has a guided meditation channel on YouTube that, if you haven't checked out, you really definitely should. I was actually listening to it last night. It's amazing. She also is basically doing something that I've always dreamed of doing. And right now, she's gutting out a van, and her and her boyfriend are going to just do van life and document it and go cross country. But really, her focus has been mindfulness, mindful living, providing her students with mindful tools. She actually has a workshop coming up that she's providing people with the tools that they need to live a mindful life. And she's just very hands on. So, Katie, welcome. We're so grateful to have you. Thank you for coming to the Soul Tribes.
Thank you for having me. I'm so grateful to be here.
So, today's modality, as I'm sure all of you can guess, is mindful meditation. And so, instead of just kind of going into a whole description, I mean, mindful meditation is really just being present in the present moment. I thought it would be great to really give you guys a taste. So, tonight, what we want you to do right now is go ahead and take a nice deep breath in and exhale as you sink into your sofa, your chair, your bed, or wherever you are right now. We just want you to get comfortable. Go ahead and slow down your breath. Close your eyes. And I want you to take one hand and place it over your heart, and take the other hand and place it over your abdomen. And as you do this, I want you to go ahead and feel the oxygen enter your body on your inhalation. And as you exhale, I want you to exhale all your stress, anxiety, worries, or fears. Allow yourself to be present in this present moment. Connect with your body, connect with your breath. Release all tension in your jaw. Release the tension in your shoulders. Let this energy flow down your arms. Release any tension in your elbows. Continue on to your hands. Bring your awareness all the way to the tips of your fingers and release the stress out through the fingertips. I want you to consciously feel all the energy floating through your abdomen as it's working its way down through the hips, releasing any tension that might be in your hips. Let it flow through the thighs, circle around the knees. Let that energy flow down through the calves, releasing any tension that you might be feeling. Take it all the way down through the ankles, into your feet, and let all of that tension, all of that stress out through your feet into the earth. And again, take a nice deep breath in and exhale. And as we sit in silence, let the mind relax. Notice what you choose to focus on. Notice what you feel in your body. And be ever so present in this moment. Now, as you open your eyes, you've had a taste of what mindful meditation is, and you can utilize this practice in your everyday life. When you're walking, you can feel the earth with your feet. What does the wind feel like? What do the birds sound like? You're listening to other people just to listen, not to judge or respond or overthink what they're saying. You just want to convey your messages without over talking, and notice how that makes your body feel. We can literally bring mindfulness into every single action that we do, from brushing our teeth to taking a sip of water to tasting our food. Slow down and be in this moment. So, my beautiful goddess sister Amy, how has mindful meditation been present in your life?
So, meditation for me is such a gift. So, literally, as I was just going through the meditation, it's kind of funny. I was like thinking to myself, I'm like, oh, I'm starting to connect a little bit. So, because I use my meditation for my work a lot of the times. So, to me, once I kind of start meditating and I'm in my office and I'm in the space where I do connect with spirit, and so spirit was ready to come through and tell me some things. But for me, meditation is to connect, as I do for my profession, and also recharge. To me, when I'm seeking something or trying to figure out something, or if I just feel run down, the easiest way for me to pep up, other than Cuban coffee, is meditation. And that literally just happened to me. I was just telling Dara right before we logged in, I'm like, I'm so tired. So I'm not tired anymore. And I feel so much better and I feel refreshed. So I wanted to speak to how morning meetings used to be such an amazing thing to have within my classroom. And I started implementing these same conscious behaviors and same conscious thoughts with my daughter. And now in the mornings, we kind of do check ins. And also, when I'm in the school drop off, we look in the mirror and we are very plotted and planned about our day. And we talk about what it's going to be like, what it's going to feel like, and just starting our days that way. And then we go through some affirmations that she says every day. I am kind, I am smart, I am sweet, I am thoughtful, and I try my very best. And we throw in different things every day, but it's so powerful. And if we can get into the consciousness of starting off our children this way, what a difference it will make. I literally have my Sophia saying to me, uh, it's this Daniel Tiger song. Those of you that don't know about Daniel Tiger is basically like the new version of Mr. Rogers. So Daniel Tiger was Mr. Rogers' little tiger puppet. He almost looked like an old blankie. Like he was just like a little mess and just a sweet little angel. Anyway, fast forward to current times, he's now Daniel Tiger and he's a cartoon. And he teaches children all of Mr. Rogers' episodes are now taught through Daniel Tiger, the same ones we watched when we were little. But now they have created these songs for children. So anytime my Sophia, who's like my tattletale of my soul, sees me like getting upset or like whatever, and she's like, take a squeeze nice and slow, take a deep breath and let it go. And I'm like, oh my God, all right. So I do. And I'm like, oh, this is the danger of raising conscious children. Okay? Because they're going to call you out. Okay.
Oh, I love that.
So it's the same though, like within my classroom, I used to do the same thing. And I noticed that it was like the easiest behavior modification because it was intrinsic, because it was something they had control over. It was something they knew that they could regulate. And these are even kids that were, in trauma induced responses all day long. So it was so beautiful to me because my school at the time used, I'm not sure if you guys know, but the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. I could be saying the name wrong, but it was so incredible what children are capable of and seeing that they thrived on mindfulness and that they got such a kick out of it. And so it created such behavior changes within my little classroom, having these morning meetings, having these check-ins, and just really honoring what feelings they were feeling and processing them through whatever that feeling was, positive, negative. It's not, it's just a feeling, right? And then my personal mindfulness over the past year, it's like I almost have a twitch speaking on it, is not reacting, which for the Aries Italian in me is not easy. And it's almost like painful. So it's really my lesson of the year has been mindfulness and not arguing. So the election really triggered me. And even within some of my own relationships, very close relationships, it has been tested. And so I realized I don't need to assert my opinion on everyone. And as an opinionated soul, that is so difficult for me. But I just have learned so much from doing that. And it has regulated my anger and it has regulated my heightened sensitivity as it is. So I really want you just to think about that. The next time you want to like right back at someone, just think, okay, what will my benefit be? Is it serving me or is it serving my ego? Because most of the time it is you defending that ego and just going in on it, and for what? Then everybody's cortisone and everybody's headache hurts. It's too much and for nothing. And then the mindfulness I have seen through my coaching clients and how it has impacted their daily life and how it has impacted their soul at a soul level. Like it's really starting to help them to connect with their higher selves by being mindful and having those daily practices. So, Dara, thank you for leading us through that lovely meditation. And tell me more about your mindfulness.
Well, and it's beautiful that you just ended with your clients, because that's where I'd like to begin. One of my tools that I actually started implementing back in New York when I was doing coaching and healing, I would get together in person with my client in the park. So I would make them meet me in like Central Park or something. And this is like New York City, okay? So yes, you're in the park, but you're surrounded by the city. And I would walk with them. And of course, I love to walk. This was my jam. Not everyone else was as comfortable or as familiar, but I would push them out of their comfort zone. And I think that walking and talking can also be very therapeutic. So I would do a lot of coaching sessions this way. And I would ask all of my clients, what do you hear? And I would just make them sit there and tell me what they heard. And usually the first things would be like taxi, someone yelling, this and that. And I would say, okay, now take a breath. Now tell me again, what do you hear? And I would keep asking it until they heard the birds, until they heard the wind and the leaves rustling with it, until they heard the lap of the water by the pond. And that practice, every single one of them was transformed by it. Because here you are in the middle of New York City where there's hustle and bustle and noise everywhere, and you can choose to focus on that, or you can choose to focus on the other. And the astounding thing was, once they chose to focus on the birds, they actually didn't hear the other noises anymore. And they just were astounded by how much control they actually had. And I said, my loves, you just meditated. And that was the beginning of their mindful practice. So it was such a powerful tool in my life and in my client's life. And so when I was in South America, that's where I really started to dive in and take more classes. And then when I was in South Asia is when I got my teacher certification as well. But really, mindfulness for me now is really every morning, every night, just taking 5 minutes when I wake up and being mindful of my body, feeling what I feel and checking myself, is that what I want to feel? And how do I want to align my day? And then at night, being grateful and being mindful of that. When I'm taking a shower, being mindful. When I'm brushing my teeth, being mindful, being grateful for the health, being grateful that I can walk. Every single time I might get a little overwhelmed or stressed, I come back to that gratitude, and that really helps me to be mindful and to be focused. And for me, another really powerful mindful healing tool was mirror work and affirmations. So when I was doing self-love work back in New York, I would get the Crayola crayons and I would actually write affirmations on the mirror to myself. So when I woke up every morning, I would have these love letters to myself, because I was learning to love myself. And at first, as everyone knows, it doesn't love themselves. It's hard at the beginning. You really don't believe it. You kind of think it's BS, and you're like, oh yeah, I deserve love. Yeah, right. And it's like, no, just keep doing it. Keep doing it. I promise, please, every day, you guys just keep doing it. Every day in the mirror, stare at yourself. I love you. You're beautiful. You're kind. You're worthy. You deserve love every single day. Tell yourself how much you love yourself. And then switch words were very powerful. And these are programmed words that actually have components that help to reprogram, because really you've been programmed to believe certain things. So you can actually reprogram your mind. So it's really just all of that. And then even throughout this last year for me, it's really been about mindfulness in conflict resolution. So it's, instead of like you were saying, instead of just reacting, it's almost like my higher self comes into play when I'm getting triggered or when I'm getting tested. And it's like, okay, wait a minute, how do I want to respond? And now my response is, are you really arguing with me right now? I'm really not choosing to vibrate on that frequency. And it's like, wow, for a double cancer empath to be able to pull herself out of an emotional argument and say, wait a minute, like, I'm not going to participate, is very, very powerful. So I'm very grateful to mindfulness. And obviously, that's what we're here about. And that's what our experts here about. So Amy, go ahead and.
So, Miss Katie, we are so happy to have you, and we have a lot of things in common. So, I'm so excited to hear more about your story. So, tell me, how did your path lead you to where you are right now?
Well, so I definitely resonated with a lot of what both of y'all were saying. Like I kept going, oh yeah, that too. Oh yeah, that too. And so I feel like obviously we do have a lot in common. And so my path, I would say, I feel like this is probably pretty common, but I've been a seeker like my whole life, right? My first question as a child was always why? Why? And it still is always why. It's shifted a little bit to like, oh, that's so interesting. Can you tell me why? Like I ask it a little bit more mindfully, but I'm still a why person. But I would say that like I think I had a major shift in my late 20s. I like entered a phase of kind of rapid evolution of my spiritual practice and development and growth. And I was teaching elementary school, like you mentioned, and I was living in Atlanta, and I was insanely happy with my life. It was super fun. I loved Atlanta. I loved what I was doing, but there was this little, like this whisper of something that was saying like, something's missing. And I like to point out that it was like a this and this. Like I wasn't miserable. I didn't wait till I got miserable to make a change or anything. I started to hear that kind of like I wanted deeper connections with people, and I just was not finding that. And what I didn't know yet was that I really wanted a deeper connection with myself, but I had not yet discovered that. So it was kind of cloaked in, I want deeper connections with other people. I'm not finding that here. Where can I go? And so although I was super happy with my life, I decided to ditch it and go do something else. And I think I've mentioned this to both of you before, but I was lucky enough to be given the mantra from my father at a young age of, if you don't like it, change it. So simple, so, sounds so easy, but it's been very impactful for me because, and it's not like, give up on something, don't have perseverance, but it's just more like what y'all were saying, which is like, make a choice on purpose of what you want to be doing with your life. Like ask yourself, do you like what's going on? And if you don't, then change it. And so I did, and I ended up moving overseas to teach at an international school in South Korea, which was super fabulous, and I absolutely loved it. But it was also hard because I moved away from everything that I knew. And so it really thrust me deep into a spiritual journey because I was going through like culture shock, and I hit kind of a low point, and I discovered meditation. And so I started meditating to ease my my stress and yeah. And so I started meditating while I was in Korea, and also was just really steeped in a lot of like personal growth and self-development and all that stuff. And fast forward to like 3 years into that experience, and I hit a point of burnout with my job, and again loved my life there, but also started to go, I was trying to implement meditation into the classroom, and my school was very supportive. They were wonderful, But Amy, you might be able to relate to this, but the school culture didn't have space for it. And so what I realized was I want to be working in an environment that has space for it. It's different than supporting it, right? Like they weren't unsupportive by any means, but it was such a go, 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 busy, 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 like school environment that there wasn't space for it. And so I decided to leave and figure out how can I work in the field of mindfulness, meditation, personal growth, and like, what can I do? How can I make that a career? And so I left my job and I traveled for a couple of years. And I did a meditation teacher certification, a yoga teacher certification, and, you know, lots of workshops and things like that. And then I moved back to the States a couple years into that experience, and through a bunch of synchronicities, ended up moving to Portland, Oregon, which is where I live now, and found a job I took over a maternity leave in a second grade classroom that was where mindfulness was like a central piece to their day. And I was not looking for it. I had applied to be a sub at the school, just like not a long-term sub, because I really was hesitant to go back into the classroom. And then they invited me to come observe. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like the colliding of my two worlds. There's all this mindfulness happening and like yoga and that type of stuff happening in the classroom. And they want me to come in and teach this classroom. Cool. And I actually came and did the sample lesson that they asked me to do was a read aloud, and I taught a breathing technique and affirmations, not knowing that was already a thing that they did in the classroom. So they probably also were like, wow, she just dropped right in our laps here. So anyway, so that brought me, you know, into that experience, and I got to experience that. And that brought me up until last June, when I just decided, you know, I want to explore teaching. I love teaching, but I wanted to shift a bit what I was teaching. I wanted to shift into teaching more focused mindfulness, meditation, that type of stuff, and kind of leave behind like I'm going to teach second grade math and that type, you know, I wanted to focus in a little bit more. And so that's, and so that's where I am now. Is I have my business teaching mindfulness meditation. And like Dara said, starting to focus on mindfulness in the workplace and working with kids and all kinds of things.
Well, and it's just so beautiful and so perfect how you've been able to merge your skills and your love for teaching, working with children, and mindful meditation. And I've known her for so long, and she's been speaking of this and just figuring it out. And I've seen her beautiful journey, and you really can accomplish anything you set your mind to if you get focused. And that's what it's really so poignant. So I know that people kind of get the point of meditation and everything, but Katie, from an expert's perspective, can you really explain to everyone what is the purpose of meditation?
So there's so many purposes. And really, I feel like it really depends on what you're looking for. Some people come to meditation for like a deeper spiritual connection with themselves and with other people, or with, you know, whatever you like to say, like with the divine or with God or whatever it is, the universe, whatever you label that as. And then other people come to meditation for stress relief. Like there's a lot, it changes the landscape of your brain. Like Amy was saying, it helps you, parts of the brain that change when you meditate are one of the parts of the brain that changes is the part that is responsible for your fight or flight response, which is where you get the reaction, where you, and so when that changes, you are able to respond to a situation instead of react to a situation. And so there are people who come for that, trying to ease anxiety and stress and get better sleep. And then there are people who come to meditation. You can use meditation to as a boost, like for your health. It, like I said, it does help you get better sleep. It can help with, it can help decrease cholesterol and blood pressure. And it, you know, it can decrease inflammation, which is responsible for a lot of health issues that we experience nowadays. And then there's also like some people come to meditation because it can help you increase your focus, and it can help you increase your concentration and your like the clarity of thinking, and get more accomplished in your day. So there's so many reasons that people meditate, and you can kind of pick whatever purpose works for you. What I love about it is that whatever reason you come to meditation or start implementing mindful living techniques, really all of you end up experiencing a lot of those benefits. So if you're coming for stress relief, you also end up getting the health benefits and the deeper connection to self and the increased self-love and self-compassion. And so it's pretty cool that there's so many benefits, and that one can draw you in and then you get a lot of them.
I love that. And it's so true, because it's like, as I said, you know, most of the time for meditation, I'm trying to connect, but also afterward, I feel so different. You know, you feel focused, you feel calm, you feel, it's almost like an energetic reset is how it feels for me. It's like, you know, you could be like hyper or anxious, whatever. You meditate, you know, and I'm a big proponent of just 5 minutes changes everything. Like, look, we sat with Dara, that was maybe 3 minutes, and you felt so much better. Because people fall into, you know, oh, I got to sit with monks for 30 minutes on the clouds. You know, you have this like grander idea, and it is like, it can be so normalized within your daily routines. And as Dara said, you can just wake up. And I've really been in the practice of having gratitude, just listing 5 things when I wake up, and it changes your tone so much of your day, because you feel differently about those 5 things, you know? So how are you currently using your mindfulness to teach you things, and where is it kind of, what path is it bringing you along?
Well, so one of the things that you just said, well, both of y'all have mentioned, is gratitude. And I know, so gratitude, mindfulness, I feel like these are all really big buzzwords right now. And sometimes people are like, oh gosh, I keep hearing people talk about that, you know, but there's a reason for it, because it totally works. And so one of the things that I think is super duper powerful is a gratitude practice, like you said. And so there's research that shows that fear and gratitude cannot exist in the brain at the same time. And so, I mean, how powerful is that? So many of the things that, so many of our like ruminating thoughts and our anxiety and anxiousness and stuff is rooted in fear. And so if we can pull ourselves out of fear, then what a benefit to ourselves. And so one of the things that I used to teach my 2nd graders was about downshifting, which is like when your brain, you know, goes from the thinking brain, the part that's like making decisions and making conscious choices, to your fight or flight mode. And one of the ways that you can pull yourself out of fight or flight mode is through gratitude. And there's other ways too. You can do it through long, slow, deep breathing. You can do it through finding something humorous about the situation that you're in. But you can also do it through gratitude. And so but when you're in that moment, it's hard to reach for something in that moment. So I think so I personally make sure to have a regular gratitude practice. that looks different. Sometimes it's journaling at night or in the morning. Sometimes it's listing things in like as I go to bed, I'll go through the alphabet and list like what I'm grateful for as I'm falling asleep. Or like Dara said, like when I wake up in the morning, I open my eyes and I look around and like start to, oh, I'm so grateful. Look at the sky, and like check in with how I feel. So that way, when I do notice that I'm dropping into anxiety or a fear mode, then I already have stuff on tap. I've already thought through recently what I'm grateful for. And so then I just tune into the things that I already know I'm grateful for, and I start to say them out loud. Or I start to say them purposefully, sometimes out loud, sometimes in my head, but I state them. I'm grateful for this. And I will feel my heartbeat, my heart rate, I get sweaty. I will feel all of that just decrease within like 30 seconds to a minute of like listing off things that I'm grateful for. And so that is a super powerful practice that I use. And then another thing that Amy, you mentioned was like about the length of meditation. And one of the things that I really like to do is demystify meditation for people, like you said, because it doesn't have to look a certain way. There's so many misconceptions about what meditation has to be, or what it should look like, what you should do or wear or think during meditation. And there's so many ways that meditation can look. And so my typical practice is that, so Deepak Chopra has the RPM, which is Rise, P, Meditate. And so that typically is what I do. I wake up and, I'll meditate in bed before I even get out of bed. I sit up, but I have my practice before my feet hit the floor, because once the day starts, and sometimes it's easy to let it go. However, and I'll usually do anywhere from 20 minutes to 40 minutes, maybe an hour. However, when I was teaching elementary school, there were many days that I didn't have time for that. I needed sleep. My meditation teacher always says, like, the number one way to relieve stress is sleep. And then you have exercise and meditation, but number one is sleep. And so if I wasn't going to get enough sleep, I would pick the sleep over the meditation in the morning sometimes. And so then I would drive to work, I would get to school, and then I would go, oh, I have a few minutes. And I would sit in my car for 5 minutes and I would meditate. And it would make a dramatic difference in my day, just that 5 minutes. And so I think that consistency is one thing that I try for, not meaning like doing it the same way every day, but just doing it. Yeah.
Yes.
I love that. I'm such a car meditator secretly. Like, I know it's very dangerous. And a lot of things like come to me from spirit in the car. So I just feel like it is like my little sacred space. And for so many people, I think, especially during the pandemic, it was a good way just to get out, and to still have like a feeling of normalcy, but to be in your car and in that safe space. And, holding those 5 minutes, especially before you go to all the little ones, will really change your perspective. So I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's not even 5 minutes. Sometimes it's 10 seconds for me, because sometimes it's almost just like, for example, when someone's testing me, I want to connect to my higher self instead of let my ego attack back. So I literally will and even just doing that, I can literally feel the tension, any kind of stress just trickle out of my body, and I become more present and I become more conscious of how I want to navigate. So it really is whatever you need in that moment. It's really about being mindful in this type of meditation. So it's just so amazing that you've also been able to incorporate this mindful practice into defining your career. So really, what ways has mindful practices really helped you to develop this kind of semi new revolutionary type of career path, which I hope to that many people are going to start, dabbling in and seeing how powerful and impactful that it can be in the workplace, in schools, with children. But yeah, what ways has incorporating it, Katie, really helped you to define your career?
I think a few different ways. One thing I would say is that it has helped me, the practice of meditation and just mindful living has helped me become comfortable with discomfort. And I think that evolving a career can be super uncomfortable. And so it's also given me the opportunity to recognize that most of what, like most of life most of happiness is based on our perspective. And so it's helped me to soften my perspective towards the world and see the world as a friendlier place, as a being for me instead of happening to me. And so that's made it easier for me to look around and trust when I want to shift, when I want to shift what I'm doing. And so it's kind of opened me up to, like I mentioned at the very beginning, those whispers of like, okay, something's feeling off. I'm not like miserable or haven't fallen into a state of depression. However, something's off. And I feel like for me, if I can notice those things early on and start to and it gives me time to look around and start to see like what's pulling me. What am I attracted to? What am I liking and doing more of? And so it's really just been an evolution of like following, the path that's opening up to the path that's calling me and like going down it and trusting that that's going to lead me to something that that I enjoy and that is purposeful and meaningful. And I think too, like this part of my career, which is a little bit new, which is working for myself and teaching these classes and teaching these workshops and things like that. I think I have to get out of my own way sometimes and fall back on, what do I have to offer? How can I best serve other people, which is in the nature of, that's what teachers do anyway. I mean, that's just, kind of where you're coming from when you teach children. And so I think I have to fall back on that a lot and just get out of my own way and see what needs to be done.
Can I ask one last little curveball question? So
Sure.
I know that you gave everybody one fabulous tip for a mindful practice, which was consistency, which I love. So no matter if you have an hour, 40 minutes, 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 5 minutes, consistency every day. That's a great tip. Are there any other fabulous tips that you can think of off the top of your head that you can tell people to help them stay consistent or with their mindful practice when they get frustrated, when the mind keeps chattering?
Yeah, well, so one thing that I really like to tell people is to pick a habit or a thing that you do throughout the day. So if you have a mindful living technique, like take a long, slow, deep breathing, right? Like taking 3 long, slow, deep breaths, that sends a signal to your nervous system to settle down. So if you want to try and implement that into your day, but maybe you're just like, I keep forgetting, then take something that you do a lot, which like right now we're still experiencing a pandemic. So we're all washing our hands a lot, I'm sure, right? So every time you go wash your hands, pause and take 3 long, slow, deep breaths. Or every time you send a text message, or every time you press send on an email.
That's even better. Make them every time they pick up that phone.
Right. Pause and take 3 longs. And the thing about doing that is that mindful living techniques and meditation being a mindful living technique, those you don't only experience the benefits while you're doing it. It ripples out into your daily life. So if you are pausing every time you pick up your phone and taking 3 long, slow, deep breaths, or even 1 long, slow, deep breath, whatever is happening in your body, the settling, you are going to feel that in other parts of your day. And I think the consistency is when you start to, consistently implementing something is when you start to see the changes unfold in all different parts of your life.
And that's exactly what it is. It is like a transfer of energy, and it just really changes, everything, not just one thing, because all of a sudden you realize you're being mindful of absolutely everything. It's wild. Well, Katie, thank you so much for sharing, your journey and your truth, and for listening, as you said, and allowing those synchronicities to happen to put you onto this beautiful path of healing. And you're going to be helping so many people, I feel like.
Thank you.
So yes, thank you.
Thank you both so much for having me on. This was wonderful. I loved chatting with y'all.
Thank you. I love you so much. You're such a radiant angel. And I know that your practice is going to be very successful because you're already touching so many people's lives. So we're going to go ahead and invite you, because I know that you were talking about it earlier. Miss Dascola likes to lay out a little bit of soul work.
Yes.
For everyone. So I know you have a journal sitting by you somewhere, Miss Katie.
Right here.
I love it.
And I have my pretty pen.
I
love that. And we were speaking to our teacher souls. I love a flare pen. Like, there is nothing more in this life that I love a flare pen. And Miss Katie had all of her gel pens. So speaking to our teacher selves, yes. So this week,
pens make journaling happier, than more fun. Absolutely. Get some fun pens, you guys.
Oh yes, absolutely. Pens make everything better. I mean, come on. So get your journal and your magical pen and get ready to think about, what is the purpose? We all spoke on this. What is the purpose for your meditation practice? So what are you doing it for? Ask yourself, sit with it, and ask yourself, what more maybe could you gain from it? Then I want you to think about, how does mindfulness help you to remove blocks or the barriers that are impacting your daily life? Kind of like how I was speaking to how I was getting more anxiety and more stress the more I was keeping not healthy dialogues that turned into arguments with people. Then I want you to think about, currently, what mindful practices are you using? So you may be like, well, I don't think I have any. Well, we listed a whole bunch today that I'm sure, if you're a little bit stressed out, you breathe, you think about things, you affirm yourself. I can do this. Oh, okay, I've got this. Just little things like that can soon turn into habits that, as Katie was saying, will reflect all through your life, not just in that moment. All of a sudden, the more conscious we become, the more conscious we become, right?
Yeah, and I just like to say that first drink of water in the morning, when you've been fasting all night long, that's a perfect moment to really get mindful and conscious, because you can actually feel that water trickle through your entire body. So that's a good beginner's place to just try to see what mindfulness kind of feels like. Feel what it feels like for that water to trickle through your body first thing in an empty body in the morning.
Love that. And it's so true,
right?
You
It's
really
so
do
good.
feel that.
That's a drink.
And Dara and I are like water heads. So.
A water addict, yeah.
That's like the best. I love that first morning water.
Yes.
So now, also that you've heard us all speaking on all sorts of mindful practices and techniques, what do you think you want to implement into your, it doesn't have to be, a lot of my coaching clients freak out if I'm like, your daily practices, but what can you start implementing into your practices, whether it's a couple times a week, whether it's once a week? Obviously, you want it to get to daily, but remember, baby steps. No one needs to freak out. Just what can you do to be more mindful? So, there is a little mindful session for you. We hope you enjoyed. It was so wonderful to connect with you, Katie. And again, we're just so happy to have you. So please let everyone know how they can find you and connect with you as well.
How can they find me? Well, I have a few different ways. I do have some, so my business name is under my name, but my tagline is Inhale, Exhale, Connect. And so I have right now a website that's inhaleexhaleconnect.com. And I also have that on Facebook and Instagram. And then I have my personal accounts also just under Katie Fleetwood. And I also have an email address, which is katie@inhaleexhaleconnect.com.
And your YouTube channel is
And
Inhale,
yes,
Exhale, Connect.
yes, yeah.
I love that. That's such a great tagline.
Yes.
Love
Thank
that.
you. Thank you.
And Dara, how can they find you?
Go ahead and find me on Instagram at darajewett.com. You can find all my other website, my Facebook, everything there. And go ahead, Amy, let them know where they can find you.
You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Amy Dascola Medium, and you can find me or book with me at amydascola.com. Please, if you are watching this, like, subscribe, share, tell your mama, tell anybody who will listen, and find us at thesoultribes.com and on Instagram and Facebook, The Soul Tribes. Thank you again. I hope everyone has a wonderful week. And we so appreciate all of you tuning in to our conscious community. Thank you and have a wonderful, wonderful week and take care of each other.